Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So apparently, the Indiana Pacers held a private workout with Victor Oladipo sometime in the past week. And I'm going to be honest, I've voiced my opinion on this before, but I kind of want to go over what I think it means for the Pacers and the direction they're going in, especially with the starting lineup this upcoming year. We already know Andrew Nembhard's running point guard this year. That's already been confirmed by Pacers GM Chad Buchanan. The biggest question mark on this roster is going to be, that empty spot now in the starting five where Andrew Nembhard used to play next to Tyrese Halliburton at the shooting guard position. Now, there's only one reason I could think they would be bringing Victor Oladipo in for a workout, and it's because for a couple reasons. The first being they think Johnny Furphy and Ben Shepherd are not ready to start. Not in the second unit anyway. Which, you can think what you want about it. Johnny Furphy showed us a lot in Summer League. I don't know if the Pacers are going to make any effort to bring in Oladipo or not, but the idea that they held a private workout for him at least shows that they have some type of interest or are willing to see what he's still capable of. Now, I don't think Victor Oladipo will ever be the player that he was for us when he had his first stint with us in Indiana. That was, prime Victor Oladipo. And honestly, if we're going to be 100% honest, that was peak Victor Oladipo. So I understand from that aspect, why they'd want to bring him in. I understand why they would want to put him in the building, especially if James Johnson's not going to be there. There's not going to be a roster spot for him. I understand why they would want Victor Oladipo on the roster. However, what I think this means is that Ben Mathurin's going to start. I know that's kind of come out of left field for people here, but the only reason they'd be willing to bring in Victor Oladipo is if they know that somebody in that second unit is going to become a starter. And I don't think it's going to be Jarris Walker. Jarris Walker is very good, but being that Bennedict Mathurin's in a contract year, it just makes sense. It makes sense for the Pacers to say, we got 1 year, right? We got 1 year to see what we really got in Ben Mathurin. He's extension eligible, I think, in October. So it's just the idea, Ben Mathurin's a guy, he might even already be extension eligible, but he's a guy that they're going to be hesitant to pay a lot of money to. We already know Herb Simon doesn't like to pay the luxury tax on a good year, never mind on a bad year. And we just saw what happened with Miles Turner. Like I've always said, I've said it time and time again, regardless of what you think of Miles Turner, even I being, a big hater of Miles Turner, I thought they really lowballed the shit out of Miles Turner in some instances with the contract they offered him, especially after going to the NBA Finals. I understand why they didn't. Don't get me wrong, I understand the move. It's just the move they made resulted in them insulting the longest tenured player that we have on the roster. And I think that's an important thing to get through your head as a Pacers fan, is that the Pacers were so hell-bent on not paying the luxury tax this year that they decided it was a better job or a better option to give Miles Turner an insulting offer. The longest tenured Pacer you have, the guy that was constantly choosing Indiana over and over again every offseason, you finally pissed him off enough to go to another team. And that doesn't sit well with me. That, as a fan of the team, it doesn't sit well with me that we're not willing to pay the luxury tax for 1 year, even on a bad year, just to keep a loyal player happy. Granted, in the end, I think it's a good thing. I will say that. I think the end result will be better. But it's just the idea, part of that and the result of that doesn't sit well with me. So the idea they weren't willing to go into the luxury tax and all that stuff just goes to show, Herb Simon is prioritizing money. And if that's the case, they have to find out how much money they think Ben Mathurin is worth. And even then, they're probably going to lowball him. But it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense that, you would move Ben Mathurin into the starting lineup. You'd have a starting five of Andrew Nembhard. You would have Ben Mathurin, you would have Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, and most likely James Wiseman or Jay Huff starting at the center position. That makes the most sense, especially if you're going to bring in Oladipo to be your, sixth man, your second guy off the bench. You have TJ McConnell, you'd have Oladipo, you'd have Jarris Walker, you'd have Obi Toppin, and like I said, Wiseman or Huff coming off the bench, or even Isaiah Jackson, probably Ijax, I would assume. But my biggest issue is if they bring Victor Oladipo in and make him the starter. That's the thing that I'm worried most about, because I'm going to be honest, man. He did Indiana kind of dirty the last time around, if I'm being honest. We gave him his big break, and he decided to bet on himself in free agency. During the playoffs against Miami, he's walking over to the bench asking the other team if he can play with them. So I feel some type of way about that. But it's also the idea that, this is your chance. This is your one chance to see what Ben Mathurin is. This is your 1 year that you get to really trust Ben Mathurin, put him out there with the starters and be like, let's see what you can do, right? There's never been a better time. There's never been a better time now to throw your young guys out there and just see. You're going to see a lot out of Andrew Nembhard this year, probably a lot of improvement, especially if he's going to start every game. If Ben Mathurin starts every game, you're going to see a bunch of improvement as well. Aaron Nesmith, I think, is still going to be a catch-and-shoot guy. I don't know if Aaron Nesmith is going to have the same impact, being that Halliburton's not out there, and Andrew Nembhard is more of a shoot-first type of point guard than he is a pass-first type of point guard. He's still a very good defensive player, and I really don't think that the front office wants to go away from that defensive duo of Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith being on the floor at the same time in the starting lineup, because it's improved the defense a lot since we went to it. So I think that this is an interesting move. I will say this. I'll be pissed if they make Oladipo the starter, because Oladipo's not the future. Ben Mathurin is. And I think the front office realizes that, but I do think they want to bring Oladipo in to have a veteran presence, to have a guy that knows the culture, knows what's going on, especially if James Johnson's not going to be back. So, I get that. We still have TJ McConnell around, which is good. Siakam is still there. And if Victor Oladipo can be anything like his former self, like his previous version of himself when he played for the Pacers, that could be a really big deal too, coming off the bench. It's just, Oladipo hasn't had, a really, really good stint in the NBA since he left the Indiana Pacers. It's kind of like a similar situation with Lance Stevenson. Lance Stevenson was never the same player after he left Indiana, because that system just fit him so well. Oladipo, came to Indiana. We made him basically the number one option, and he was never able to get on that track again of being a number one option for another team. I know he wanted to bet on himself in free agency, and there's the rumors out there as well that the money they offered Oladipo was not what the alleged number is. But it's just the idea still, we paved the way for him to be able to get big time money, whereas before he came to Indiana, he was not capable of that, So I do feel some type of way about that. I'm just going to say this. I'm okay with the Victor Oladipo move if it means that he's going to be coming off the bench, which I would assume so. I'm not okay with the Victor Oladipo move if they want to bring him in and make him a starter. I'm not okay with that. And the reason I'm not okay with that is because I think Ben Mathurin is a better player than Victor Oladipo is, even at the current point in time. If things change down the road, I don't think they will. But if they change down the road, okay, maybe we can talk about it. Then we have to have a bigger conversation about if Ben Mathurin really can be the third star of this team. That's a conversation we can have at a later date. But I do think if you bring Oladipo in, he has to come off the bench, and you have to let Ben Mathurin start. And that's, I think, the only reason that they would be considering bringing in Victor Oladipo is because they understand that they need a guy who can score the ball off the bench. And yeah, you have Jarris Walker, you have Obi Toppin, you got Ben Shepherd, you got Johnny Furphy. You're gonna have a bunch of two-way guys on the bench. They brought back Quentin Jackson, who I love, by the way. I think Quentin Jackson's a great player. But that's where this is starting to That's what this is starting to smell like a little bit. Like they want to bring in Oladipo so they can fill Ben Mathurin's gap on the bench, so that way they can let Ben Mathurin start. Now, I want to say this. Don't get too excited because we still don't know what the deal is. You know, there hasn't been any contract offered to Victor Oladipo that I know about, but I do know they brought him in for a private workout. It was not public. It was in front of the executives, the scouts, the coaches, the team. Like, this was a private workout. But they did bring Oladipo in. They did decide to, like, give him a shot. They said he was showing up at Fever games. I know he went to Indiana University and or IU, and he was doing some stuff there. They I forgot what happened, but I don't know if they retired his jersey or something like that. I forget why he was there, but I do remember seeing something on social media about that, like he was there. So Oladipo's in Indiana. You know what I'm saying? He's spending time in Indiana. He's going to Fever games. He's doing shit. So I don't know. You know, I don't know how to feel about it, but if he's going to come back for the right reasons, be dedicated to the system, help us win, then I'm fine with it. But as long as it doesn't come at Ben Mathurin's expense, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that signing Oladipo comes at Ben Mathurin's expense, and I do not want that to happen. I think this is the best opportunity you're ever going to get to see what your young guys are capable of. And not just Ben Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, Jarris Walker, right? Even Obi Toppin maybe has some more to show us. Aaron Nesmith, Ben Shepherd, Johnny Furphy. You've got a lot of young guys on your roster that you could really use this season and see what they're going to become or what they really are. And honestly, that's what I want the most out of this season. I don't even care if we make the playoffs or not. If I'm being honest with you, I'm not expecting anything super crazy because Halliburton's not playing. I understand we still have Siakam. We still have a solid roster. But it's just the idea. It's like, how good can it really be without your superstar player? Regardless if you think Halliburton's a superstar or not, Halliburton's a guy who gets us to the playoffs. So it's just the idea, like, Halliburton's not going to be around. So this is your opportunity to see like what you really got and, what is this team like without Halliburton. I think people are also going to have a newfound appreciation for Halliburton this season as well. I know Indy already loves him, but, we're also very quick to turn on players. And I think you're going to see just how much of an impact Tyrese Halliburton has in the win-loss column by the time that this season is over. What's crazy? Even with Halliburton having like a half-assed first half of the season last year, we still made the NBA Finals. Like, that's how good and how important Tyrese Halliburton is to this team. The amount of game winners he hit in the playoffs last year, all that stuff. It matters. You know what I'm saying? It matters at the end of the day. And I don't know, man. We're going to see. We're going to see what all of this will become. But I will say this. I think this is going to be great for development. I really do. I think this is going to be great for development, regardless of if they bring Victor Oladipo in or not. I think you're going to see a lot of guys grow this year. Think of this as like our Detroit Pistons season of this past year. This past year, Detroit became really good because a lot of their young guys finally got some burn and they got, starter minutes and, got more opportunity. Think of that as this upcoming year for the Pacers, where you're going to see guys like Andrew Nembhard grow a lot. Ben Mathurin's going to grow a lot. Jarris Walker's going to grow a lot. You're going to get a lot of meaningful minutes out of the younger guys on our roster, and we're finally going to get to see, like, how good can this player or how good can X player really be? And that's what I'm most excited for this year is like I want to see if Ben Mathurin really is that guy because I think he is. I think Ben Mathurin really can be that guy. It's just he's never had the opportunity to get the opportunity to show us that, and he's finally going to get that this year. So with Halliburton out and Andrew Nembhard, we're finally going to see if he can actually be a true point guard, by the way. I think Andrew Nembhard that's his traditional role. I think he would be best served in that role, even if he is a turnover machine. I do think he'll cut down on the turnovers a little bit this year. I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, but it's just the idea. I'm excited. I think that's what I'm excited for. I think that's what most of the fans should be excited for as well, is the idea like this is our opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like this is our opportunity to see what the future holds and where the team plans to go salary cap wise. Are they going to be willing to go over the cap because that's a thing too. Like, Ben Mathurin's going to have to show us this season if it's worth going over the cap. Like, that's the main thing you need to get out of the season is, like, they need to extend Ben Mathurin. You got other guys who are going to be coming up to be extension eligible in the future. You have to look at this roster and say, if we add Halliburton to this next year, can we win a championship? That's going to be the question they're trying to answer this season. The question the front office is going to be trying to answer is, if adding Tyrese Halliburton to this roster as it is makes us a championship contender. I know we went to the finals this past season, but not this year, but the following year, right? Like, if you put Halliburton, Mathurin, and Siakam out there on the floor next to Jay Huff or James Wiseman or whoever, right? Is that going to be enough to get you all the way? That will determine who gets paid what and if Herb Simon pays the luxury tax or not. So that's why this season still matters. There's still some meaning, to the season, even though I know a lot of people, including myself, are not expecting anything amazing. I hope they play well. I hope we get back to the NBA Finals. That'd be fucking awesome. Even if Halliburton's not there, it's like it would just go to show how good this team really is. But that's what I think people need to be looking for the most out of everything this season. Is just that's the main focus. That's what you should be looking out for. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more. I'm the Fast Break Report, and I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.